Pakalifsi. Welcome to my Arctic life. My name is Nasugraq, and today we're going to talk about crowberries. Here we call this plant blackberry, though it is more officially known as crowberry or mossberry. It is found in plentiful abundance on the rocky tundra hillsides. It is a staple food for bears and birds, and also, of course, us humans. Crowberry bushes are very flat and grow very close to the ground. We usually pick these berries in the fall, after the first hard frost. The hard frost will make the sugars come out and they taste sweeter. But if you're too impatient, you can go ahead and just throw them in the freezer for a while, and this will also make them taste sweeter. You can hand pick the berries by grabbing handfuls, mimicking how a bear would gather them up in their mouths. Though we rarely, if ever, use a berry picker, crowberry plants are low to the ground and pretty tough, so they do not mind the combing action. Though you have to make sure not to rake against the growing direction of the plant. You want to leave the plant intact and healthy. Make sure you move along quickly from patch to patch, not spending too much time in one spot. So if you go anywhere in northern Alaska and you ask about crowberries, most people will not know what you're talking about, mainly because we don't call them crowberries. We call them Ankatuvuk in our language, or we call them blackberries for obvious reasons, because they're little blackberries. So I grew up eating these, but I grew up eating them in a very specific way. We would freeze them and then put them in a bowl and then mix it with some evaporated milk and a lot of sugar and eat it that way. The other way that we would grow up eating it is in what's called Ankatuvuk, which we refer to as Eskimo ice cream. It's not really like ice cream, it's more of like a frosting. Most people are familiar with buttercream, where you whip the fat and then you add sugar and you add some sort of flavoring. Ankatuvuk is like our version of frosting. Buttercream frosting, but we take caribou fat or seal fat, some type of really rich fat, and you'd add flavoring to it. There's a sweet version where we add sugar and then we add berries, and a lot of time we would add these berries. Let's talk about the berry, the actual berry, and what it actually tastes like. It's not a very popular berry simply because there's not a lot of flavor. So I don't know if you could hear this, but they're extremely crunchy. And it's not because the berry itself is crunchy, it's because inside there are little seeds, and these seeds are very hard. When you bite into a crowberry, a blackberry, your mouth is immediately filled with water. You get a very faint berry taste, some sort of berry, almost like blueberries. And then you immediately taste the tartness of the tannins inside the berries. And that's why this is usually not a very popular berry to most people who didn't grow up with it. It's because it's not very flavorful. But if you grew up with it, you know that part of the awesomeness of this berry is how it feels in your mouth. Little tiny bubbles of berryness. Honestly, it's kind of like eating roe, if you like the feeling of roe in your mouth, or it's kind of like eating bubble wrap. It just like pops in your mouth. Pop, 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 pop. And it's fun. It's super fun. There's also medicinal properties to this berry that I personally have not tried, but if you go snowblind, which is common in springtime, you could dig down and dig up crowberries that are still under the snow, frozen under the snow, and squeeze the juice in your eyes, and supposedly that soothes your eyes and helps heal your eyes. It's also supposed to be kind of like Visine. Today I'm going to actually show you a recipe that I use a lot when it comes to crowberries, blackberries. We're going to make a yummy, yummy, yummy jelly. Once you get all the berries picked, you can take them home and clean them. This is usually the most time-consuming part, and everybody has their own technique of how to do it. Me, I just like to go ahead and pick out all the little bits and pieces that are not good berries. Here we're going to go ahead and open one up so you can actually see those crunchy little seeds inside. Rinse them a bit with some cold water and measure out the amount of berries you're going to need for the recipe. Today I'm going to be making a half batch. To make a full batch, you can double this amount. Add the berries and the water into a pot and turn the heat on high. You want to bring it to a roiling boil and let it boil for about 5 to 10 minutes. You want the berries to be nice and soft so they'll burst easily. Then pour through a mesh and squish them. The resulting juice should be nice and dark in color. You can take the leftover berry bits and dry them and use them for tea later on. Measure out 1.5 cups of berry juice. Turn up heat to high. Add a splash of lemon juice and a little bit of butter. The butter helps prevent foam. Once it reaches a roiling boil, add your pectin. When it returns to a roiling boil, time for another minute. When the minute is over, add your sugar. Stir to dissolve. It'll take a while to go back up to a roiling boil, but when it does, start your timer again for another minute. This is where it'll start to thicken, and you should be able to start seeing it coat your pot and your stirring tool. This is also where you could skim off any foam. Once the minute is over, remove from the heat quickly and pour into a jar. And there you have it, deliciously dark crowberry jelly. Let it sit on the counter until it firms up. In the end, it should be soft, but still hold a little bit of shape. People who have never tried it before say that it tastes like grape jelly. Inupiaq for joining me today, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I also now have a Patreon account, which I'll go ahead and link below. You can also add me on other social media platforms, which I'll link below.